78 is where we'll be this morning. Does anybody remember where they were 9,996,700 seconds ago? What if we convert that to hours? 166,612 hours. Got a clue? 6,942 days. How about 9/11/01? Got that. Now my seconds may be a little off, and my hours may be a little off. I try to get it right, but I could be an hour or two either way, a few seconds either way. Remember where you were when you heard the news? Mark, you? 7, 8, 9? Mason, how old are you? 3? Do you? I remember. You do? And are you? Do you remember? Okay. So 3, I didn't know how old you had to be before it stick. We all remember. That morning I was on the fire department still. We had a crash. It was actually my neighbor. 76 highway going out of Bradleyville. That time of the year, the sun, they're directly in line. So at about 7:30 in the morning, you cannot see, and Carol had pulled right in front of, I think it was Beth Lawrence, and folks picked up, and tools went everywhere. Nobody was hurt. But as we went to that call, they said on the radio, happy 9/11 day. 9/11, 9/11. And so we got that done. And I came back through Bradleyville, and I stopped at the station to get fuel, and LaDonna Johnson came out and said, boy, you better get yourself married. I said, why is that? She said, we're headed for war. First clue that anything is going on. We all remember when and where. Max, you remember Pearl Harbor Day? You'll be old enough to maybe remember. You'd be the oldest. What about JFK? You're getting behind my time. You all remember that when and where? Events that just are stuck in our mind that we never forget. And that became the motto, the rallying cry afterwards. Never forget. Never forget. Have we forgotten some of that time? You remember the unity? How everybody was pulling together? It wasn't Democrats and Republicans, it was Americans. So there was unity, and people said, united we stand. And you would go along the road, and you would see chain link fence and USA and styrofoam cups, or Dixie, not Dixie cups, they're too little. Or my solo cups, maybe stuck in there to write USA. Never forget. Y'all remember the lawmakers singing on the Capitol steps? Imagine them doing that today. I looked it up. George W.'s approval rating on 9/21, 10 days later, get 90% approval rating. The next one down was his dad back in the storm, and below that was Harry S. Truman at 87, with the top 3. Back right after the end of WW2. We saw pictures everywhere of the heroes and the patriots that had done stuff, and we can all remember that iconic photo of W as he was standing on that pile of rubble with that bullhorn, and he said, I can't hear you, but the people that did this are going to hear from all of us sooner or later. We remember that. We remember the righteous indignation we felt about what people could do. Remember what it became to fly? Get on an airplane after that? No baby bottles? No water bottles? No crochet hooks? Mark, you've been fresh out of luck. No crochet hooks? Breaking my hand in half again. I mean, it was all kinds of problems to fly. Words like Homeland Security and the TSA and Real ID. All of that, we've almost forgotten. As I was thinking about it, there's a lot I had forgotten of what the world was like before. And everything in a moment of time changed. We said, never forget. Look how divided we are today. We forgot. No, that's not the only thing we can forget. Psalm 78, give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which ye have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from our children, showing to the generation to come the praises of the Lord and his strength, and his wonderful works that he hath done. For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers that they should make them known to their children, that the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments, and might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. Dropping down out of verse 34. When he slew them, then they sought him, and they returned and inquired early after God, and they remembered that God was their rock, the high God their Redeemer. Nevertheless, they did flatter him with their mouth, and they lied unto him with their tongues, but their heart was not right with him, neither were they steadfast in his covenant. But he, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity and destroyed them not. Yet many a time turned he his anger away, and did not stir up all his wrath. For he remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passeth away, and cometh not again. You notice verses 6 and 7, that the generation to come might know them, even children who should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in God, and not forget the works of God, but keep his commandments. Never forget. If we want outreach to this church, if we want growth, if we want anything good, it's going to only happen if we never forget. Forget what you ask. Wait in verses 2 and 3. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. What we've heard and known. Here is how the Lord has helped me. That's what I know. We can't forget how the Lord has helped me. Here is how the Lord has helped you, or my grandpa, or my parents, or my sister. Pick somebody. And we've heard that. You know, people may think we're crazy when we tell what God has done for us or how he has helped us. They may look at us like we're screwballs. But we can't forget what he's done for us. Several years ago, there was an election in Taney County, and it was for presiding commissioner. The sitting commissioner was Ron Houseman, and the challenger was Mike Schofield. Ron had been Taney County clerk for many years. There was a scandal. He was voted out. A few years later, he ran with the presiding commissioner. He was up to his old tricks. Mike Schofield ran against him. It was a David and Goliath situation, with Ron being Goliath and Mike being the Heidi calls him Mighty Mouse. He is not your epitome of politician. Mike is not a good guy. I'm supporting him. He's still the president. We felt like it was vital that Houseman be unelected. He was corrupt, wicked, all kinds of problems. We took it to prayer. Serious prayer. And people, when we would tell them how we were praying, it wasn't like we proclaimed it from the house, but in conversation, specifically, I was sitting on the sewer district and telling one of the other board members how I was praying, and he said, there is no way that Mike can defeat Ron. I said, man, we are dedicated in prayer. It's vital. One of the other guys was standing don't discount people about prayer. The election wasn't even close. They would be fine. That's just one brief example I could tell, and you could tell, and we could sit here the rest of the afternoon telling of situations we know about where we've seen God work. We can't forget how God has worked in the past. We discussed that in Sunday school. We can't forget, if we're going to have hope for the future, we've got to know how He helped us in the past. Why? Verse 4, to show the generations to come the praises. We praise the Lord today, or have we forgotten how? You know, when I was a boy, it was fun to play church. It was fun to play church. We could run and shout and woo it up. It was good times. My grandpa was short and portly, and I can remember him a time or two, he'd get blessed and he wouldn't run the aisles. I don't know that I ever saw Grandpa run, but he'd walk. He'd just get out and walk the aisles. Nothing out of line, nothing out of ordinary, nothing embarrassing. That's what he did. Uncle Morris, he played the trombone. He'd get blessed and he'd walk the aisles playing that horn. And so as we were kids and we were playing what we know, just what we knew, praising God as we'd seen it. And so we kind of wanted to go to church. We got, well, like the psalmist said in Psalm 63. Lord, O God, thou art my God, early will I seek thee, my soul thirsteth for thee, my flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land, where no water is, to see thy power and thy glory. So as I have seen thee in the sanctuary, showing praise to the generations to come. His strength and his wonderful works. Have we forgotten as a people how to pray God's presence down? Have we forgotten? We shouldn't forget. If we start forgetting, the church is going to die. Because if we forget, we can't tell. It's not just biological children or little children, it's others. We can't tell if we're going to know. So what else should we never forget? You ever forgot what it was like to go to a strange church? I was telling Ellie this week that I think it's Southeastern where Staley's go. When I went there years ago to that church, they sing There's a Welcome Here. Have y'all ever seen that done? I hated it. Absolutely hated it. Going to a strange church. And they would sing There's a Welcome Here. I don't even know all the words. There's a welcome here, there's a welcome here, there's a Christian welcome here. And everybody would get up and march past you, and you sat there feeling like a bump on a pickle and had to shake everybody's hand as they walked past. Humiliating. It was terribly embarrassing. But you know, we should welcome and be nice to people. Be friendly to people. I didn't have a chance to ask Heidi the final details about this, but we were dating. I went to her church. There was a lady. Somebody new sat down in front of where I was, and that was this lady's seat. And she walked up and stopped and just looked at it, and stood there and looked at it till they got up and moved. Now that's not very nice. You know, if we forget what it's like to die, have we forgotten what it's like? You know, it's so easy. I was talking to Charlie about this last night. It's so easy when you get past, like Ronna said, you were wore out after one day with your great-grandchild. But it's so easy. I don't want to hear that racket. Mama shushes him. I don't want to hear that noise. And we forget what it was like when we were a kid and we were bored stiff because the preacher was long-winded and he didn't have the actions that Roland Mitchell did. I mean, I love to watch a good preacher jerk that coat off and swing it around. I can still see him take his boot, and it may not have been a boot, but he drew a place in the thing and pretended his imaginary sword and he fell on it. Or like Dwayne Elmore to watch watch him. That's exciting. Have we forgotten what it's like to have to just sit there at 4 years old while some boring old preacher's droning on and on and on and on and on? And yet we're critical when we hear a little bit of noise in the church. And we're critical if somebody's kids are a little bit antsy. God forbid, a quiet church is a dying church. Have we forgotten what it was like to be living in sin, fear and misery, condemnation, self-loathing? I won't do that again. I won't do that again. And then we do, and we loathe ourselves. And I won't do that. I make promises I won't. And we do, and you loathe yourselves. And there's anger, and there's bitterness, and there's pride. Have we forgotten what it was like to be in sin? We must have, because we don't seem very concerned about those that are stuck there. We must have forgotten. We must have forgotten what conviction was like, how we make excuses. We wouldn't want to go to church because we knew we'd be miserable there. We'd be embarrassed. We'd be under conviction. And we wouldn't want to go to the front. The pew would just shake. And we'd feel red and our heart would just stop. And we knew everybody was looking at us. The preacher had us nailed. He was right there where we were. In fact, he preached all around us and beat up on us and had to call our name. Have we forgotten what it was like to be under conviction? Have we forgotten what it was like when we realized it's my time? I've got to yield. You know, I was thinking I have never seen or heard of anybody who took a step out to go to the altar and get halfway down and turn around. Have you ever seen it? I don't think you ever will. Because if you reach the point I'm going, you'll go. The battle is all with the pew. Remember what it was like when you needed to yield? Suddenly, somewhere, you reach the point, I'm going to change, I'm going to go. And you'd head for an altar of prayer. And you get tunnel vision, at least I did. When I started, the world zoned out. I had one goal in mind, I wanted that altar, and I needed victory. I didn't go down there and play games. I've told it here, I think, but I was sitting kind of in that far seat, and I was about where Elliot was kind of in. Cousin Jonathan was on my left. I don't remember what the message was, but I asked him, I said, are you going to the altar? He said, no. I said, I am, let me out. He followed me down there. But when I started out, the world, I was zoned in. Have you forgotten what that was like? Have you forgotten? We knew there were others at the altar praying, but I wasn't paying attention. Have we forgotten what it was like to need to yield? Have we forgotten what it was like when we were praying and to come up against something that we needed to yield? And everything hinged on this answer. Will I surrender that? Will I surrender her or him? Will I surrender? Victory's not in the struggle, it is in the surrender. But have we forgotten what it was like to be there? Sometimes I think we have. We can be awful judgmental and critical of people who are weighing in the balance. Do they want to yield or do they not? We've forgotten what it was like to get new life. You know, when it starts getting sunlight or daytime, it becomes gradual. It becomes gradual. You start seeing a little bit of, you start seeing a little bit of gray time. A little bit. Now you're born all at once. I get that. I know we become a Christian all at once. But the light and maturity and growing is gradual. It's gradual. And when somebody's at an altar and they get saved and they're born again, and we say, here's a list of rules. This is what you will do if you're a Christian. Not good. Let them grow in grace. Let them grow. The night Ellie got saved, we were in her bedroom and we prayed. Told God she was sorry for how she lived. She wanted to be saved. What she asked me when we were done praying? She said, now what do I do now? It's not our place to put our convictions on new converts. They're for us. They're God's fingerprint on our life. I'm going to tell this story, and it's about me. It's not about you. It's about me. One of my convictions is I cannot wear a t-shirt with printing on it to church. If you all come tonight in t-shirts with printing, I won't think anything less of it. Okay? That's me. That's God's fingerprint on me. I won't be an ambassador, but I can. I don't have a conviction against that. But I do if it's got print on it to wear to church. That's me. That's mine. But if I told anybody at an altar prayer that you've got to do that to get to heaven, I'm lying to them. Have you forgotten what it was like when God showed you light and said, you walk this way? And we were glad to do it. It was for us. It was God's fingerprint on our life. This is what I want you to be holy, how to do it. And we knew that He cared about me. He hung the moon, and He cared about me. I want you to live this way. This is a guard for your sake. It's to keep you holy, to keep you close. You've got a weakness in this area. We must never forget that God gives the light. Have we forgotten what victory looks like or how it felt? The peace, the surrender, the joy. The night I got saved, the stars were brighter. I was fat then too, but I walked a little lighter. I had a little more spring in my step. I was clean. I felt pure. I wanted to tell people. I wanted to share. I wanted to read. I wanted to worship. Have we forgotten what that was like? Verse 8 tells us that if we forget any of these, we're going to have spiritual barrenness. Nobody's going to want to follow what we're doing because we're not telling. And if we've forgotten, we're not going to be telling. So we drift on down to verse 34. And if we forget what God's done for us, and we forget what it was like, it's going to affect those around us. The Bible says He slew them. Now this is specifically dealing with the children of Israel. There's going to be blood on our hands if we forget. And we try to put 40, 50, I've been saved 32 years. If I try to put 32 years of Christian living on somebody that's been a convert 10 minutes, it's going to cause issues. If I've forgotten. Verses 35 through 37, I'll try to hurry. If we forget, it's going to cause shallow thinking and false religion and carnal Christians. Have we forgotten our mission is holiness unto the Lord? That's our watchword in song. If we say we're sanctified, but we've forgotten how to love because we're full of love. Not just full, but full of love. Love is charity and kindness. That's what we want if we're going to be holy. We can't forget that's what our motto is. We want to be full of love. And if we forget, we're going to be critical and judgmental. And we're going to be concerned with externals and not concerned with soul salvation. So much is riding on us remembering. Remembering. But you know what? If we forget, God is still faithful. Because He remembers, but He, being full of compassion, forgave their iniquity and destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned He His anger away and did not stir up His wrath. For He remembered that they were but flesh. A wind that passeth away and cometh not again. God remembers our weaknesses. He has mercy on us and for us and grace toward us. And if we fail and if we goof up, He will draw and bring us back and remind us that praise and we don't want to ever forget what it was like to be lost. We don't want to ever forget what it was like to be under any condemnation. We don't want to forget what it was like to realize we needed to yield and then to yield. We want to be able to tell it and remember it and share it. And if we share it, because we know it. know what that means to me? That there will be generations to come. There will be other Christians. There will be little people coming up, and middle people, and older people, and ancient of days people. We'll have a church of everybody. A whole group growing, and it'll be live and vibrant. Generations to come. If we can remember what God has done